How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Boylei Hobby Time. We're back in the Wild West with another monster encounter, and this time the monster that we're encountering is a giant eagle. I needed a way to keep this eagle propped off the ground, so I used this old tree from Games Workshop that was given to me recently by my uncle. The plan was to have the eagle suspended in a way that made it look like it was flying. I took inspiration for this diorama from Rubens Amaro, a patron of mine who made this very impressive diorama. On the other side of the layout, I wanted to have a small group of bandits and a wagon full of the spoils from their recent heist. They're all still high off the adrenaline from their successful robbery, so much so that they all failed to grasp just how much danger they were in until it was too late. For the foundation of the terrain, I used an XPS foam offcut, which I trimmed down to the exact size of the wooden plank, which will act as the base. It's best to have a nice sharp knife and make multiple passes for the best results. I wanted a slight incline from one side of the diorama to the other, so I placed the figures in position to get a good idea for the space I had, and then I kicked them off and began carving. I removed volume from the left side of the terrain till it was about half the height, and then I carved a spot for the tree. I wanted to glue it straight to the wood instead of to the foam, so it would have a nice secure hold. I'm also going to be working the modeling compound in and around the tree to hide the gaps and further anchor it in position. After gluing the foam and the tree in place, I dry fit the figures again to ensure they would all fit comfortably, and it was time to apply the terrain paste. I mixed up some Sculptamold with water till it was a nice, thick, pasty consistency, and then I slapped it on the foam. I spread it around with my gloved hand till the whole base was covered, then I worked it into all the hard-to-reach places with the sculpting tool. After that, I left it to dry and I moved over to customizing the wagon. In a previous video, I mentioned the purpose of these antennaed machines seen in and around the wild imaginary West. They're known as forestalls in universe, and their main purpose is to deter monstrous fauna. This wagon here is of course equipped with one, but unfortunately it's not working properly, and I'll explain why in a minute. I used some pieces from this assorted bag of bits from K&S Precision Metals to create the antenna and a few other bits on the machine. You may be looking at this wagon and saying, in a universe where there are mechs, why would the robbers choose to ride in a wagon? Well, the short answer is, machines with wheels go faster than machines with legs. And they're quieter too. Once the kit bashing of the wagon was done, it was time to paint the minis. I popped them all on some painting bases and then I ran them outside to prime. The first model up was the eagle. I started with an airbrush and I painted on a gradient of warm colors going from dark to light. After that, I painted the head and tail white because the setting is America, and I covered the rest of the eagle with a dark wash, and I finished off the details like the beak and talons, and I brought out all the detail on the feathers with a light dry brush. I then hit it with a matte varnish off camera, and I moved on to the wagon. The bandits were taking a break in the woods, preparing some dinner and counting up their spoils after a successful robbery earlier in the day. During the heist, there was resistance and shots were fired from both sides, but it seemed that no damage had been done. Unfortunately, none of them had noticed the stray bullet that had hit the forestall on the wagon, causing it to malfunction. It wasn't completely destroyed, but the signal was now flickering and would no longer prevent quick animals like eagles from taking one of them or their horses for dinner. One of the bandits, at the very last moment, noticed the eagle and grabbed his gun. But between you and me, I doubt it will do much good. I was done painting the minis, and the base had dried, so it was time to throw on some texture. I used isopropyl alcohol and watered down white glue and more isopropyl alcohol to stick down various sizes of pebbles and sand, and then I went over the top of everything with more of said liquids to seal it all in place. Once it had time to dry, I took it outside and I primed it black before painting it. I grabbed the airbrush again and layered some earth tones on the ground and the tree, building from dark to light. And I may have gone a little heavy on the light. I then threw some washes on the tree and began covering the ground with some color. I used various colors of pigment powders and I activated them with isopropyl alcohol to help bleed the colors together in a natural way. Off camera, I went over the whole thing with black and tan from the airbrush to tie all the colors together, and then it was time to add the foliage. I got all this miniature foliage from Diorama Persepe. I'll link their website below. I clipped off some little clusters and I assembled a canopy for the tree. The hope was that it looked like a large pinyon pine. I also added some smaller plant life and various colors of flocking as ground cover to bring a little more life to the base. After that, it was time to put the figures in place. The last thing to do to complete this little monster encounter was to paint the sides of the diorama with black 3.0, and I called it good. That is it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Huge shout out as always to my patrons. You guys are the best. Have an awesome week, everyone. I'll see you next time.